Hi everyone. We're going to go through what Lou did on Monday evening, the editing of 4 photos. It'll be similar in many respects. Photoshop and Affinity work in a fairly similar way, but there will be variations. And we'll just go through it, and hopefully some of the methods I'm using you'll be able to apply to your own photos. So tonight we're looking at the owl picture, the chair, the zebras and the gorilla. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Right, so the issue here is the background is quite bright, and we might want to adjust that, but we need to get hold of the bird and separate it from the background. So what we're going to do is purely select a selection tool that you can see up here, selection brush, come over onto the image, use the right hand bracket key, square bracket to increase the brush size. You can see the brush size there, and I'll just move over the bird and you can see it selecting. Now it's got snap to edges already turned on, and I've turned on soft edges because you've got the soft edge of the bird. And we can just go around and make the selection. And if we come up a little bit closer, let's just pick up on the edges here, and I can make the brush smaller when I get into smaller areas. And we'll just basically make sure that we're getting all the edges. Now if I run over, I can just hold the Alt key down and it has the opposite effect. So you can bring it back in. So if I run down here, there I've gone over again, Alt key, and just run down, selecting all the edges as best as I can. I'm obviously doing this quite fast. You probably spend a little bit more time doing this. I'm also working on a JPEG, which means it's only 8-bit, which you can see some of the details quite blocky compared to the original image. And what we can do is just come down here. I'll also select the post, just increase the brush size again, and just go around. There we go. And move into the corners, just make that smaller, there we go. Just get this last little edge. And in here, if I make the brush smaller and hold the Alt key down, I can take away the inner shape there. And the same here. Oh, okay. It's taken too much. Let's just reduce that again. That'll do. And do the same in here. It's just right. So not a perfect selection, but not missed a bit here. So just come down the main breast of the bird. Now we've got a basic selection. What we can do is hit refine, and what it does is anything not selected is red, leaving the bird in place. So now if we go around the top, we've got a couple of options down here. We're set on matte at the moment. I'll explain the others in a moment. And what they can do, where the edge isn't as good as you'd like, you can tell basically the program to resample that area. And it's best done in small goes. And you can see just trying to refine that area there, that edge. And if I want to specifically say something is the foreground, part of the bird, I can hit foreground and just paint that area, and you can see it if I zoom up. if I just gently brush along the edge, and it takes it back to where it thinks the edge of the bird is. And that's I find that sometimes better. Done quite a good job down here, just that little bit there. There we go. A little bit of the bird here. And you can spend as long as you like to get it as good as you can. It does make a difference. So there we go. Now that will do for me for the purposes of demonstration. So I'll come back out here. Now, what you don't really want is like a very hard edge, because it'll be fairly obvious that you're changing the background. So what we can do is feather the edge. If I zoom up a little bit and move, you can see the edge there. If I just give it a little bit of feather, and what that does, it gives it a slight transition towards the bird, so any changes we do to the background won't appear so hard. I'll just select this area again. There we go, just tidy that up. So once we've got the selection, we just hit apply. Now the dotted line looks pretty much the same, but it has had that effect. So I don't actually want to change the bird at the moment. I want to change the background, but I've selected the bird. And up here, you've got invert selection. If I do that, you now see the dotted line is going all around the edge and actually excluding the bird. You can either hit that button there, or you've got select invert, layer, or you've got layer invert as well. So, but selection invert will do the same thing, but obviously the button's the easiest. So now we've done that, I'm going to look at the background. The first thing I'll do, I think I'll check my levels. Let's bring that out. And as you can see from the histogram, there's a lot going on in the middle, and it tapers off either side by a fair amount. So what I can do is just bring the blacks, and basically saying where's the black point. So bringing it forward will darken it, but I don't want to go too far, and the whites will whiten it. Again, I don't really want to go too far on that, and we'll just accept that. Now I'll look at the brightness. You can either use brightness or you could use exposure. Exposure affects everything. Brightness and contrast are more to do with the midtones of the picture. I'm going to use brightness for this. So I can just start dropping the brightness down a bit. And with any editing, sometimes less is better. You know, if you take it too far, it might look like the bird is cut out, because the bird has a natural light there on it. Pretty much the sun was pointing at this bird when the photograph was taken. So let's just bring that up a little bit. I'm just going to settle for about that area. Contrast. Again, I could bring the contrast down. I don't want to increase contrast, because I want the background to be fairly bland. So we'll take that there. And again, because it's a JPEG partly, there's a little bit of noise in the background there, and that can show up if you've printed this A3 or something like that. So what we can do is look at denoising it, and if we come up here, if I just increase the luminosity a bit, oh, I've got the wrong layer selected, delete, pick the main photo, always helps. Let's do that again, denoise. If I increase the luminance, you can see straight away, you can see all the dotted work there. If I just move up slightly, it will all disappear. It becomes smoother. What you want to do is only bring it up until it starts to disappear. Again, less is better. So that smoothed the background out. Okay, so we're happy with that. And yeah, I'm fairly happy with the background. I could maybe, let's just try this. Let's look at HSL. So hue, saturation and luminosity. So I could reduce the luminosity in the background, and I can even shift the hue of it. So I think Lou had a more brownish, yellowish background, and you can make those sort of adjustments. You can make it also look really stupid. So if I want to go back to where I was, you could either type in 0, or if you just double click the dot, it will take you back to 0. So that's what it was. Let's just try reducing the saturation a bit, and I'll just move, yeah, I think I'll just make it slightly more yellow, match the eyes, let's call it that. Okay, now to get back to the bird, all I need to do is invert the selection again. So what do I want to do to the bird? Well, this is a very nice sharp image. There's some haloing here which was in the JPEG, so I think it's probably to do with the conversion in the first place. So we'll forget about that for the moment. So back to the bird. What I might want to do is do a curves adjustment. Pick the right. There's curves, and what I might want to do is just bring down. You can see bringing down the blacks helps define the bird a bit more. And if I just boost the highlights, we can adjust the bird and give it a little bit more depth. Now this is more personal, well, all of this is personal taste, but I'm going to just do it that amount, I think, at the moment. So this is a classic S-curve, where you're bringing down the blacks and increasing the highlights to give it more contrast. And to me, this gives you more control than it does using brightness contrast sliders. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. What I might also want to do is just sharpen the bird slightly. It doesn't really need it, but it's more to show you what can be done. So we'll use a high pass sharpen, and you can see it's greyed it out. And what we want to do is increase the radius until we start to see the details of the bird. Now that's probably a little high. Generally I don't go over 1 pixel. You can make it monochrome, that can be useful. It just means that any other sharpening is black. I'm going to leave it about there. Now what we need to do is blend that, and what we normally do is use linear light. So let's do that. Let's just zoom out a little bit. We're a bit too close there to view it properly. And here's the high pass sharpen. And if I unclick it, let's go a little bit closer, and click it on again, it's not making a huge, oh yeah, around the beak here area. You can see it sharpening up a little bit. I think it's worth keeping. Again, it doesn't work as well on 8-bit. You can see artifacts here in the photo, which I'm sure is to do with the JPEG conversion. Right, so that's basically it. We've got a number of adjustments there, and if I basically select everything. There we go. Except for the make photo. Turn everything on. Right. So if I turn all of those off, that's our original photo. This is our updated one. So the background's more muted, which means the owl is popping out more. We could look at also, let's just turn the selection off. I might want to adjust the actual size of the image, a bit of cropping. So we all know that we can crop inwards, but you can also crop outwards. So I can move that up so the eye is more on the third, and just move that in slightly. Let's keep it on the third, and apply that. And of course now we've got the checkerboard at the top. Now the way you would go about that is select and say rasterize and trim, just to make sure that the picture's exactly on the frame. You would then say select alpha range, select partial, and what I would generally do is go select grow by 2 pixels, and then you would use the edit in paint option, and it will basically paint in the top area there, and you get quite a nice graduation there. Now what I could do is just run that back a little bit. I've got a macro, you can download it, and it's called In Paint Edges, and it basically takes all those actions I just did, 5 steps, and just does it. So much quicker and much easier to do. Right, let's move on to the next photo. The chair. I didn't actually agree with the judge. I think making the chair bigger would have doesn't work for me. If anything, I might have brought it down a little bit so it wasn't quite on the mountains there. So let's have a look at this. I'll do the selection anyway, just to show you how it can be done. But this time, instead of the automatic, I'm going to use a pen tool. And pens are good for selecting geometric shapes, so chairs, buildings, things like that. Not furry animals or feathery animals, but they're good for just picking geometric shapes. So what I'm going to do this very quickly, and just go around the object. If I get it wrong, just do Control Z, and it. Oh, I did that too much. It normally just goes back one step. I actually picked something else, I think. Yeah, I've come off the pen tool. Oh, there we go. Control Z, and it will go back one move. So you can reselect as you're going around. And I'm just going to do this as quick as I can, so it won't be that accurate, but it will do the job I want to demonstrate. So we'll just come up here, yeah, bit dodgy. There we go. Down to here. Oh, Control Z. Back to here, and I'm gonna cheat. I'm just gonna go over to here, down. And you just pick the tool and it will join it up. So we picked this. I could do all the inner shapes as well. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to say, okay, make that a selection, thank you, and then what I want to do is copy that and then paste it, and you can see the chair is now all on its own. Select that layer, and what I'm going to do, rather than do all the selection, don't need that anymore, I'm just going to erase the bits I didn't actually want. There we go. Quick and dirty. We don't want this in the background. Right, there we go. Lovely. And remove this here. Okay, but you get the idea. I'm going back to the actual chair, no background involved. But that's good enough. I'll turn the background back on. Now if I go to the move tool, you can see if I move out, if I'm on the background's marked, and if I move to the chair, you can see it here as well. So what I can do is I can take that and make it bigger. There we go. Now if I'd have done that properly, I'd have done the shadow as well, but it gives you the idea of what you can do. I can see the chair behind, so let's just turn that layer off at the moment. Go to the background, pick the in paint tool, and I'll just quickly remove the original chair. There we go. Turn that back on, and if I select the move tool, I can move the chair anywhere I like. Obviously, I'll try and pick it roughly with the shadow where it is, and I might want to straighten it up a little bit. So I can just grab that little dot here, and I can straighten it up. There we go. Job done.